Now in example 3, we're going to solve the following inequalities algebraically. And what I'm looking for when you solve these algebraically is, can you find the zeros in the vertical asymptotes? From there, we're going to make a rough sketch of the graph and use the graph just like we did on examples 1 and 2. So first thing we're going to do is find our 0 or zeros. So to do that, take the numerator, x minus 1, set that equal to 0. So add that over and we get x equals 1. So my 0 or my x-intercept is at 1, 0. Now find your vertical asymptotes. To do that, take now the denominator and set it equal to 0. And we get x equals -8. So let's make a rough sketch of this. And all I really need is that x-axis here. Here at -8, we have a vertical asymptote. And then over here at 1, we have an x-intercept. So let's get out our calculator. Now I'm going to put my rational function in this y1. So I'm going to go alpha y equals, to get that n over t. And I have x minus 1 on the top and x plus 8 in the bottom. And I'm going to go zoom 6 to see my standard, because I know it's all between -10 and 10. So zoom standard should fit. So zoom 6. And here is my graph. So again, you can't see those vertical asymptotes, but that's why this is going down and this is going up. There's my vertical asymptote right there at x equals -8. So this portion is above my graph. We're above my x-intercept. And then it's going to come over here and it should cross at 1. If I actually go zoom decimal at 4, we can see this portion a little bit easier. Crosses right there at 1, and it does go above. Just barely above, but it does. So it starts down here and it's going to cross and look something like that. So we have sketched from our calculators. And so now we can answer the question. We want to know when this function is less than 0. So not including 0, less than 0. So we are talking about everything here below that x-axis. So I did my best to highlight, not including that x-axis right there. So we only have this portion right here. We are going from -8 because it is approaching that vertical asymptote. So -8 to that 1 right here. And because it's less than or not equal to, it does not include that 1. So here is my solution. Okay, so this is the work I'm needing to see, and then you can use the calculator for the rest. Exact same thing here. We need to find our 0/zeros. And we do that by taking the numerator and setting that to equal 0. So here we get x equals 4, which means I have an x-intercept at 4, 0. And then we get x equals -9, which is an x-intercept at -9, 0. Then I'll find my vertical asymptote. And we do that by taking the denominator and setting it equal to 0. And that one is done. So now if I make a rough sketch, We have a 0 at -9 and at 4. And then right here at 0, we have our vertical asymptote. So here's what I need to see algebraically. And now let's get into our graph to find this. So we have x minus 4, x plus 9. And then in the bottom, we just have x. And now we will hit zoom 6 to graph it. All right. So you can see it's crossing right here at -9, crossing right here at 4. I don't see that vertical asymptote, and right now it looks like they're pretty far from it, but if we zoom out a little bit more, if I change my y's to -100 to 100, we can see that y, or that x equals 0 vertical asymptote a little bit more clearly when we zoom out a little bit. Okay, so that tells me it crossed right here at 9 and it's going to go up. So it started below, crossed at 9, and went up. And then it starts down here below, crosses at 4, and goes up. So here is again my sketch from the calculator. Sketch is in red. So answering the question again, we need to know when this one is less than or equal to 0. So we are including this x-axis and everything below it. So this portion is below, so we're going from -infinity to 9. Sorry, to -9. Infinities are always parentheses because this -9 is an x-intercept, is a 0, and it's or equals to, that's a bracket. And then the union, we have this little portion right here. So what is that approaching 0 to 4? Then it crosses above. This 0 is a vertical asymptote, so it gets a parenthesis, even though it's or equals to. And then this 4, because it's a 0, will be a bracket. Make our final answer stand out a little bit more. Probably should make our final answer here also stick out a little bit more.